Hey, it's your old pal Slim, and this is 70mm, a podcast for film lovers just like you. Every Monday, I chat about recently watched movies with my close friend and artist, Danny Haas.
I could fire 7,000 people, but then mix Toy Story 5. You do the math.
And my close friend and movie insider, Protolexis.
Oh my God. Yo, Jersey Boardwalk. You get the Polish water ice there. It's like super smooth. Oh, baby.
Every month, we have a new theme that guides our featured presentation for that episode. And this time, every pick we make will be from the VHS Village Top 100 movies of all time. Proto's pick from that list? The Tree of Life from 2011. Is it a movie? Or is it something more? Something more than we ever thought possible? Let's find out together. I'm going to start the show off with a review.
Oh, boy.
If I may, from 2016.
Holy crap.
And I quote, "This movie is something special. I felt it in my loins. Must see for those who like long-winded, try-hard movie making."
Who wrote that in 2016?
Oh my God.
That's the movie insider Protolexis on Letterboxd, 2016.
That was a long time ago.
I think that was BLB.
Slotted
Or,
that in there.
Maybe a day one review. I don't remember.
Day one, haven't seen the movie in a long time. Gonna
Yeah.
throw up a review. We've all been there.
That's impressive.
That's our feature presentation. Later in the show, use the chapters to skip ahead. And I'm going to say right now, tonight we will answer the question, is there a God? In that discussion later in the show. We will answer it. We'll settle the score.
Finally.
We've nailed it down. Thanks to Terrence Malick.
Terrence Malick has asked the question and we will answer.
No one has been
later in
brave
the
enough to ever try to answer this question.
The amount of people that have turned off the podcast. Speaking of finding God,
Oh.
Proto watched Basic Instinct. And I would love to have a conversation about just that experience you had watching that movie. Paul Verhoeven, Douglas Stone.
I have found God, and she is a woman. Her name is Sharon Stone. My God, what a performance!
First time you ever seen this, right?
First time.
Erotic thriller.
Yeah, and this is coming off of my Showgirls viewing. So that was my last Verhoeven, which is, I'm doing it backwards. I think Showgirls was 95 and Basic Instinct was 92. So this was before it. And my God, what a shift.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this movie, I felt like it's like a modern noir. That's how it like felt to me. Like it has like all those characteristics. You got like this detective who's on this case that has like these twists and turns. There's this femme fatale character played by Sharon Stone, who's kind of like she reminded me of Hannibal Lecter, the way she's she's presented as like this genius. And the dialogue between them. I mean, Michael Douglas, he's brilliant as like a scumbag detective.
Yeah.
He just kills it in this movie. And I just had a fantastic time watching this. It's a joy.
I think was it Art who suggested Sexual Michael Douglas Month for a scene?
He did.
Can you imagine? The first time I saw, I think, was last year. But I mean, everyone has seen the GIF or the clip of Sharon Stone in that interrogation room, moving her legs. This is like a movie that, at the time this came out, like derailed her career because of can I even say full frontal on a podcast? I just did. I don't know if I can. But so I watched it and I like went to Wikipedia. I had a great time watching. It was very fun, very sexual. I mean, that sex scene that Michael Douglas has, I mean, it's wild.
You better be comfortable with sex if you're watching this movie.
Goodness.
So I did some Googling, and there's a big disagreement between Sharon Stone and Paul Verhoeven. Like, Sharon Stone says that she had no idea that scene would be in the movie. And Paul Verhoeven, I guess he just says she's lying. But like, even if she wasn't, she didn't see it until the first screening of the movie. And she asked him to remove it, and he refused. So kind of a D move on his part.
Yeah, that kind of sucks. Yeah, it's kind of. It's a shame because I mean, it's such an amazing movie, to do that. But like, yeah, I mean, Paul,
please. Another debate or discussion. We had pre-show, so Proto was telling a story about how he's getting some Eagles gear for the fam.
The big game.
The big game, which as of this episode posted was last night.
What game? Super Bowl?
The big game.
Oh.
And we were talking about it's at like this water ice place. And Danny asked, what's water ice?
Yeah.
I thought that was a bit that you'd never heard of water ice.
I've never heard of water ice.
Is it only like a Philadelphia thing? Water ice?
It has to be.
Water ice?
Water.
Can we get a survey in the chat?
Never heard of water ice. We have Italian ice or
I guess
slushies.
Slushies. Would you consider a water ice a slushie, Proto?
No. I mean, because you got water ice, you got slushy, then you also have Slurpee.
Just love Slurpees.
Do you have shaved ice?
I guess that's probably water ice.
We also have Polish ice, which is
what is Polish ice?
I've never heard of Polish ice.
Yo,
is that a Jersey thing?
Jersey Boardwalk.
You
get the Polish water ice there. It's like super smooth. Oh, baby.
My God. Yeah, there's some definite confusion in live chat right now. So I guess it is really a Philadelphia thing. Water ice. It's great.
Water ice.
Rita's. You know,
I know Rita's.
What's the rest of the name?
That's Italian ice.
Rita's Italian ice. Oh, okay. We're getting somewhere. Yeah, that's it. Rita's Italian ice. Interesting. It's called Rita's water ice. All right, we'll move on from this. Everyone's bored out of their minds, probably. Let's say hello to some new patrons who joined at 70mmpod.com or patreon.com/70mmpod. Or is it 70mm? Patreon.com/70mm. You just Google it, you'll find it.
You'll find us.
William, Mark, Tom, Abby, Jeremy, and Josh. So Casablanca brought some new friends into the fold. They got access to the VHS Village Discord, discounts on Danny's prints, his beautiful new prints, beautiful new episode art.
Thank you.
How about this episode art?
Thank you.
Unreal.
You did it again.
We should probably check in on another important topic. The Bond journey.
Oh my gosh.
James Bond journey. Another year of this conversation. We took a year or two off and we're back.
You have to have a break. I finally have reached the Brosnan era of Bond. And I mean, I started my review by saying I know that it's surrounded by nostalgia for me because this had to have been the first Bond that I'd ever seen as a kid. 15,
in theaters,
teenager, whatever. No, I was in like elementary school, middle school.
Oh.
But the game, the N64 game, was probably what spawned me finally watching the movie. But I love this movie. I had too much fun watching it. Sean Bean's amazing in it. Pierce is ridiculous as Bond.
A phenom. The way he kisses a woman. Incredible.
It's amazing. And then I read other reviews. I read your reviews, Slim.
Yeah.
You poo-poo the music, which is fine. I don't disagree with that. There are moments where I'm like, what is this music? We're watching a Bond film. Please.
Golden Night.
Now, the soundtrack, the title song is fantastic.
That's different.
Yeah, I sang that for like 4 days straight afterwards.
Sure, Casey was loving that.
Oh, she loved it.
Golden Night.
I had a great time watching GoldenEye again. It's so much fun. It really is.
Did you play the game, the re-release on Xbox and Switch and all that?
No.
Wow.
I don't have a Switch. Xbox for life.
Thank you.
Is there an Xbox version? Is it in Game Pass? Does anyone know?
Oh, yeah. I just downloaded it.
Huh.
It just released in Game Pass like last week. And so I played like the first couple levels, bringing back the feels again.
Right.
Really hard to play on an Xbox controller. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
How does
Same
it compare
graphics.
to Apex? Is the gameplay at all similar? Is it as good as Apex after all
Yeah.
these years?
It's not, but
Hmm.
it's fine.
Okay.
It is what it is.
Did you watch anything else this week?
101 Dalmatians. We had a family movie night. We had to spin a wheel because we've been playing on Tuesday nights. We do Taco Tuesdays at my family's house. My parents. We've been playing Disney Trivia, the old 90s board game. And it's the worst movie selection of Disney movies in this board game. It's like Bug's Life
God.
and terrible films.
B Story.
Lion King 2 is in it.
Brother Bear.
Shut up. But we realized that George hasn't seen so many of these animated films because he's getting all these questions wrong, like who's Winnie the Pooh and stuff like that. So we made like a wheel with all the names on it and spun it. It's an app. We landed on 101 Dalmatians. Watched it. Had a great time. Such a great movie.
Wow. I don't know if I've ever seen 101 Dalmatians.
The animation in it alone is worth the watch.
Have you seen Cruella?
DeVille?
You know, I found out, I think it was last week, that my daughter has watched it like 3 times. And
Really?
they had it on, and I caught, I would say, probably like 60% of it, like in the middle of it. And I
Did you
was
like it?
having a good
Oh, nice.
time. Yeah. I kind of want to go and watch
that a
the whole thing.
Is that a pandemic movie? I feel like
Mhm.
that was like pandemic era.
Emma Stone.
Yeah.
That sounds right. I sound right when I said that. What do you think about this Toy Story 5 news? Breaking news. Iger has said they're making another Toy Story.
Iger fires 7,000 people, but then makes Toy Story 5. You do the math.
Enough said.
Milk it.
I did catch something on Letterboxd earlier that I don't think we talked about on this show. I was looking up Proto's account and doing my research.
Got
Have
to
we
research
talked about
Proto.
this addition in your 4 faves? Did I miss this discussion?
Wait, what changed?
Did I sleep through this discussion? Never Cry Wolf,
Yeah.
1983. January
That made
7th, he logged this, and it's in his 4 faves.
Listen.
Sneaky.
Yeah,
Sneaky.
this was a couple weeks ago. I think this was like a big week for me. And Slim, you
Spiritually.
wanted that week. You were like, let me hear about this movie and that movie. And I never got to talk about Never Cry Wolf. I had been waiting for this movie to come on the streaming for a long time. It's directed by Carol Ballard, who also did The Black Stallion, which is a movie that I love. And this movie, it's called Never Cry Wolf. It's about a scientist who has to go down to the Antarctic, and he is like dropped off there to study wolves because they had like this theory that the wolf population killed off like the caribou. So he was sent down there to figure it out. And he goes on this plane and he's dropped there with like supplies and there's no one else. And he's just like set to live there for 6 months to figure this out. And, he has to look for the wolves, but the footage is just like incredible. It has like these real wolves out there. I don't even know how they made this movie, how it was shot, but it was just like incredible footage of like this magical landscape that I'd never really seen before in a movie. And all of Ballard's movies have like this relationship between like a human and an animal.
Really?
That's like really compelling. And just like the way he shoots movies, I just thought it was incredible. So I put it in my top 4. It was probably my favorite movie I've watched all year so far.
My goodness.
What an interesting filmography that each one of your films, or most of them, have a human-animal connection.
Oh,
I'm looking at his filmography right now. It's nuts.
interesting.
Yeah. Have you guys seen Fly Away Home? You ever hear
No.
that?
Oh, wait. That does sound familiar.
I had that on a VHS and I watched that a lot as well as a kid.
Is that one of Carol's? I'm clicking on it now.
Yeah.
Jeff
It has
Daniels.
Jeff Daniels,
Look at
Anna
Jeff
Paquin.
Daniels.
Yeah.
A Vision.
That's a cool movie too.
It looks familiar.
What a moment. What a moment for Proto. Sneaking in another one in his 4 faves.
I like it. I like a sneaky.
Every week, we give out a free year of Letterboxd Pro. Disclaimer, I'm a Letterboxd employee, so Pro gets rid of ads, some year-end stats, find out where your movies and your watch list are streaming, get alerts and all that good stuff. Griffin wins this week. Left a review for Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh my gosh.
Loved the theatrics. 4 stars.
Oh,
Could be higher. Could be higher.
He's getting free for a 4-star review of Raiders.
Sounds wrong.
Congrats.
Welcome,
Griffin. Let me look at my diary real quick before we get into. I said at the top of the show we're going to settle the score for the Tree of Life. Terrence Malick, just mere moments. What do I want to talk about?
How about
You tell me.
Yeah.
How about Angela Lansbury redoing South by Southwest? What is this about?
So I have been watching Murder, She Wrote over the course of many months in the background. I can't always have a movie or on cinema on in the background. I'll put on Angela. What's great about Roku is, you go to that, there's one section of the home screen, it's like what to watch. And it's just like an assortment of free BS that's in the Roku channel or elsewhere. And you can just resume like instantly. So A-Team is in there. Walker, Texas Ranger.
Oh my God.
I might eventually drift into that.
His roundhouse kicks? You kidding me? And those jeans?
So Murder, She Wrote is in there. And not all the seasons are on Roku, but they're in Peacock. So it like knows that I'm a Peacock subscriber. So it just loads it up whenever I'm in there. And it just runs constantly. So I've missed many episodes. But I love Murder, She Wrote. Love it. You have Angela solving these mysteries. She's a writer. In Cabot Cove, there's always a murder once a week in Cabot Cove that she's got to figure out. It's the most like densely populated murder rate.
Murder capital of the world.
The murder capital of the planet, probably. But after 12 seasons, it ended. And then I was on the Wikipedia. At one point, it said 25 million people watched Murder, She Wrote on TV. It was just nuts to think about.
It's awesome.
But the show went off the air, and then they eventually made TV movies. So I was like, wow, okay, a Murder, She Wrote movie. Hell yeah, let's do it. Unfortunately, the first one's not that good. It feels like a 3-parter, and I just can't stand TV shows that have like multiple parts because it's just full of fluff that is obviously padding for like one episode idea. And that's what this was. It involved a train, which I thought was going to be exciting. Like, whoa, Murder, She Wrote on a train. Like, yeah, let's do it. But it was kind of bad. But I did watch the second one, which was better. Inevitably, she meets up with old friends, which you think you can trust. But no, they turn out to be the murderer.
Oh, spoilers.
Or Jess. That's half the show, probably. Goodness. Half the episodes are Murder, She Wrote. So that's where I'm at right now. Murder, She Wrote. It's time to get into our feature presentation. The Tree of Life. This month's theme is the VHS Village Top 100 Movies of All Time, voted by our supporters. Speaking of supporters, I should say V'ger's back.
Oh.
V'ger, the supercomputer who loves movies that Proto built, is back. I'm going to drop a link in the chat right now. Tree of Life.
Wow.
So I was poking around to see what our VHS Village is thinking about Tree of Life. What's the average rating? It'll tabulate all our supporters' Letterboxd ratings. It's high.
It's got to be.
It's real high. I'm trying to mouse over it, but it's not working. It's the mouse. 4.08 average rating.
My gosh.
On V'ger.
Top 100. It'll do it.
So this is Proto's pick based on the list that Mackenzie put together as voted by our supporters of the greatest movies of all time. So Proto, what is this movie about?
Jack O'Brien is an architect in Texas who is having an okay day at work. Jack O'Brien is a kid growing up in the 1950s with his 2 younger brothers. He talks to God both because he has to and also because he doesn't understand why things are the way they are. Jack O'Brien doesn't exist yet, but neither does anyone else as the universe burns hot and life slowly evolves on Earth. Jack O'Brien is long dead and forgotten. No memory is left of him, his family, or any of the human race as the universe has cooled into nothingness. The Tree of Life.
Emmanuel Lubezki is God. Paul's review. cinematographer of the movie that we're going to talk about. So, Proto, tell us a little bit about your history with this movie. I jokingly brought up your old Letterboxd review, but can you remember that far back? Your first viewing of this?
2016. That's like 3 lifetimes ago.
It's like 20 years.
Yeah, at least 20 years ago. It's hard. I wish I could remember the setting. You know, it's hard to remember before streaming services. Like, I was like, how did I even find movies? How did I even have access to them? I'm like, I'm not even sure. Like, because I don't own this movie. So I don't know if this was like a Netflix thing or if I borrowed it from somebody. I have no idea how I watched this. But I did. And I remember it coming out and being intrigued by it. I like to think that I have like a sixth sense for trailers and can just tell when I'm going to like a movie. Mm-hmm. So when this came out, I knew like, oh, I got to see this at some point. So I bided my time, and 2016 was the year.
Remember like early on into the podcast where we were all remarking about how much more movies we watched than even like a month before or like 2 months before? It was like insane.
Yeah.
How things moved up.
Feel sick.
So, Danny, what is your Terrence Malick history?
I don't really have one besides knowing the name. I've seen Badlands, which I really liked. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I only know him as a name director that people like. I would like to watch more of his stuff. Just need to find the time to do it. But yeah, I don't really have a history with Terrence. And this movie, I think I said last week, I always got it mixed up with The Fountain. Because I always thought that Hugh Jackman was in this, or vice versa. I just felt like these were the same movies. But yeah, I have no history with Malick or this film.
Berto just posted a photo of Malick. Is that the directing hat that he wears when he directs? It's like the sun hat that my mom would wear to the beach. I liked Badlands, and I really liked A Hidden Life. Mm-hmm. Hidden Life knocked my socks off. Like I think that was the first time that I was really like knocked out by the use of like his wide lens in the movie. Mm-hmm. And there was like a lot of nature shots, a lot of just hanging around. But the way it was like filmed just was like really inspiring to me. And the movie was also very powerful. Mm-hmm. And then I watched The Lost World. Is that the John Smith? The New World.
Yes.
The New World, yeah.
Yeah, I really liked that as well. Also gorgeous. Colin, fantastic in that movie, my God. But I have not seen Days of Heaven, which is an older work of his. So I almost watched this a few times, like Tree of Life. I think I might have even, I don't think I said this last week, but I put this on at some point in the past, maybe twice, and then shut it off after a few minutes. Because I'm not ready for this. Like I'm going to shut this off. This is not the time for this kind of movie.
You needed Proto to force you to watch it.
We need spiritual guidance.
I needed Proto to walk down Mount Sinai with the DVD of The Tree of Life in his hands. So in this segment, we'll go round table. Each host jots down 3 things that we'd love to bring up in our discussion, and then we'll finish things out with our final Letterboxd rating. So Proto's pick, you start us off.
Yeah, I think my first thing I'd like to talk about is really just the I guess the tone of the movie. I think 99% of the movies that you watch tell a story in a pretty much like traditional narrative approach. But this movie to me, it like feels different. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but I think like Malick, he breaks out of that. In one way, like how he connects the past with the present, and he kind of like stitches them together so that they kind of like move in and out between each other. But then there's like a lot of moments where there's just like no sound either. And like that happens. And there's like a lot of moments of like empty air or just like silence or just like room for the story and like room for the viewer to like contemplate what they're seeing and like reflecting on the ideas that the movie is presenting you with. So like there's, a lot of just like you have time to think about like your own life and, your own existence and like the nature of the universe. And of course, like, other movies like have you think about those things. But I think the way this movie does it, to me is pretty unique. I can't think of another movie that causes like that feeling in the way that this does.
Yeah, I had in my notes, one of my top 3 is like, is this a movie? What is a movie? Because like even at the onset, there's like that not like a warning, but like this movie is made to be listened to at like full volume or whatever.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Bible verse was the warning.
Yeah, Job is the warning. We're mere moments away from confirming whether or not God exists in this discussion. Stay tuned. That's a promise. So like I started like chuckling to Amanda when that came on, and I was like, I moved it up. I hit the volume a few more clicks on my Roku remote, and she's like, "Is it loud enough for you?" Wikipedia describes it as like an American experimental coming of age movie, but the Letterboxd page calls it like an impressionistic take. So like experimental feels way more apt in this because it does feel like I don't know, like if there was this feels like it could be a short film with like these weird vignettes of scenes happening. And just as you were describing what this is, I thought of those like odd scenes in After Yang where they just like replayed moments and they just felt very odd in like a memory almost. These almost feel that same way. And I think Mr. Mephistopheles said the entire movie is an emotional memory. But I cannot think of anything else that I've seen where the whole movie is like that. Like even the scenes where Brad is talking to Jack, they're just so weird.
Yeah.
They're not like a scene of a movie. They're just weird moments and they don't even flow correctly. Where like the son says something, Brad says something, the son says something, and then Brad like gets angry. Like, what is going on? They're just like fragmented. I don't know if you felt the same way, Danny.
I did, and I didn't connect. I didn't connect that we were in Jack's memory until the end, like older Jack's memory, and then I was just kind of like, oh, these are just snippets of him remembering the days with his father, or the days with his brothers, or his mother, and then I was like, oh, that's why this kind of feels weird. These quick scenes, these cuts. Because it's just like fragments of memory to him. And
I mean, I didn't get that until 2 minutes ago. So,
well, that's a little. We'll get to a little complaint about that. But yeah, that's when I feel it. It was only towards the end when I realized, oh, this was a bit of Jack's memory on the day of his brother's death, and he called his father, etc. So, I felt when we got to like creation, I was like, this feels like something I've never experienced before in a movie. There's no one, I can't think of another film that I have seen that has done anything experimental like this. I think experimental is the right word, but it doesn't feel like an experiment. It does feel intentional, artistic. It feels like Terrence knew what he was doing. It felt intentional. And I think it's an incredible body of work.
Is Danny about to give us a rating right now?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, about like the idea that like feels like memories. I had that same thought too. The stuff where Jack is with his dad in the lawn, like what the heck was he having him do in the lawn?
Right.
Like I don't understand what he was even at. Like pulling weeds or something. Yeah. It was so strange. But then I kind of like I thought like maybe he was trying to, maybe Malick was trying to express that like that feeling when your dad is trying to asking you to do something you just don't understand. Mm-hmm. And then like as the viewer, you're watching it and you're like, you don't understand what's going on in the scene, but like that's also what he was feeling in those moments. Like my dad wants me to walk around this whole yard and pick out certain blades of grass or like whatever. Right. So, but I don't even know if that's like what he was trying to communicate there. But there is so much in this movie that's like that. And I think that's a great observation that it is like Jack's memories of these times.
I mean, I don't, at the risk of sounding like a complete moron for the 100th time on this show, Like
156
it's making the scenes make a lot more sense. Like all of the scenes with the mother. You know, any review or Wikipedia read like, yes, Jessica Chastain obviously signifies grace in coordination with the philosophical views. But like, if this is really his memory of his mother, it makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, almost like this near angelic woman in his life floating through his memories, you know, very graceful. That makes much more of a connection in retrospect to me than the kind of like conversations that were like Brad's nature, the mother's grace, which maybe we'll get into in a bit. Danny, what's number one on your list?
We did just do number one, but I would say I was kind of shocked at Terrence because I didn't know. I mean, I assumed Tree of Life, we were going to get into some kind of existential type stuff. But I didn't think he was going to be asking the questions of God's existence in our lives as if you're a good God, why do you allow, you know, bad things to happen to good people? Why should I be good if you aren't? These type of questions. Who are we to you? Like, these are heavy questions inside a Christian's life. And then there are even heavy questions in an atheistic life when you are like, you know, questioning any sort of existence with God. And so it's like, I was not prepared for that kind of heavy conversation in this film. And then to have that exist with this, like, because that's like such a grand question. The creation of the earth is a grand story to tell. But then you have the small story with one family in Texas, and you have to sit there with your thoughts on a lot of things happening. And I was just kind of in shock for a long time in this film about what I was watching. And I know that's not like a point, but it just kind of continues this like artistic movie that Malick was kind of telling. But I mean, honestly, I was just kind of glued to this story, but also just like, how did audiences respond to this kind of theatrical experience?
Right. I just
at
had
the time in 2011.
It did win a ton of awards. At least critically, it was acclaimed. I don't know what the hell audiences walking into a Regal thought.
Right.
I will say I had a mental image of Danny floating like Jessica Chastain in his Batman 1989 t-shirt that he's wearing right now.
Yo,
while watching the movie.
When the music and the whole creation segment, and then this isn't even like, not even like on a religious plane, like even on like just visuals and that paired with the music, I was just like ascending.
You can say it looks better than Interstellar. You said it just now.
I cannot believe Nolan has lifted another scene for his movies. But I was impressed. That whole segment, even the dinosaur stuff I liked, which was wild to see in this film.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the dinosaur scenes probably would have weirded people out in theaters.
Yeah.
You're going to see this big new movie, this acclaimed filmmaker, and that Brad Pitt's in it. Let's all have a great night.
Even the dinosaur shows grace to the other dinosaur. I mean, heavy-handed storytelling in this.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, we did have one villager who had a 1-star review. Andy in the Discord. Remember, he had a 1-star because he took his friends to go see this movie. I mean, this is a great story in his review.
Oh my gosh!
About like he takes a group of friends, like, hey, this is the new Malick. It's going to be great. We're going to love it. They all sit down. He starts like sweating buckets. Like 10 minutes in, his one friend leans to him like, if this doesn't change in 15 minutes, I'm out. Like, so he had like the worst experience watching
That's insane. Incredible stuff.
I'm trying to think of we've actually gone through most of my points already. I wrote in my review some snark. I definitely snarked that I knew Frodo
Did you just blow a bubble?
I knew Frodo had something in his mouth.
Oh my gosh.
Everyone relax.
Pop nipples over here.
I wrote a snarky review saying that Kirk Cameron wishes this was the movie he made instead of Left Behind. Like
100%.
Left Behind,
This is what he thought he made too.
He probably did. I also wrote in I continued that thought in the comments. I didn't want to bug anyone. But I also wrote 2001: A Space Odyssey for Catholics. Very pleased with myself with my work there. And I think I struggled. Honestly, I struggled with that aspect of the movie. It's funny because I can be okay with something like Signs. With Signs, is more of like an overtly religious movie than you can even remember. Right. And I love it. Like, it's a 5-star, 5 bang for me. But something like this, I almost felt like it was too, like, again, everyone just ignore my thoughts on this movie for now. I thought it was almost too heavy-handed. And it's not even really heavy-handed, but the approach to the questions, and I did do some research where like some critics thought that this isn't Terrence trying to answer any questions. He's just trying to he's trying to get you to ask them and think about them. But I don't know. I had a little bit of a disconnect with the questions themselves, and it didn't actually make me sit and think. Like, I'm agnostic. Who knows what's out there? I don't know. I watch ghost hunting movies, for God's sake, but I couldn't.
You're finding your way.
I struggled with it. So I had kind of like an opposite effect with the creation stuff. Like, the Big Bang and the thing hitting. So at least that in those scenes, and the kid asking the questions, I don't know. It didn't really do anything for me personally.
Yeah, I think those questions, in my notes, one of the things I have is that like Malick is he's so earnest in his storytelling, I think, of just the way he's so direct with the things that all the characters whisper. I think I wrote it down. I think when Brad Pitt's character goes away and it's just her, Jessica Chastain with the boys, and like one of the first things she whispers is "Love everyone," and I think some of that stuff, if you're not into it, it feels like very cringe. Like it could be just like, all right, Malick, this is a little too much here. But he's also, I think he's like that in his other movies as well that I've seen. Like he's just like not afraid to be that earnest about these ideas and that direct. And I think if that makes you feel uncomfortable or like makes someone feel, I don't know, just like too lovey-dovey or like whatever, it might not work for you. And I kind of have like a little bit, like I think I lean back a little bit from that stuff, but I appreciate like someone being willing to tell a story like this and to go there in the way that he does.
Kirk Cameron, retire. I agree with you. Like, I have like an insane amount of respect. I think the last line of the movie is Jessica saying, "I give him to you. I give you my son." And that's like the most like, I could be in church at that point during that line. Like, I'm at a funeral, for God's sake.
I was
like,
rededicating my life on that scene.
And he was wearing a white suit by the end of this movie. And when she says that line and gives her son,
she was putting the wafer on my tongue.
Yeah, that was cringe. Is a and I don't mean this as like a super negative, but the cringe, there's probably a more positive word.
Yeah,
but I definitely felt like, like, okay, let's calm down a little bit here. So that's my first point. That was like 90 points, but Proto, you're up for number 2.
So I love the and you mentioned it earlier, so the whole grace versus nature idea, and the movie kind of starts with that, like laying it out. And I don't know if I picked up like on this like the first time I saw it, but just of how the two parents represent that, of like the mother represents the way of grace and Brad Pitt, the father, represents like the way of nature. But I find that like to be like it's a pretty subtle approach, especially in a movie that's so spiritual and so wrapped up in like religious belief. Because I think normally when it comes to faith, like the question more is about good and evil rather than something like nature and grace. Like my whole life in church, of course I heard of grace, but I never heard of it like in those terms, or that like these are the two ways to live. It was more of like sin versus grace.
Right.
Rather than nature versus grace. And I kind of like this because I feel like it's almost like an agnostic take on like that idea of like good versus evil. Like, if you're the way of grace, you're unconditional, you're willing to like self-sacrifice for someone else. And if there is no God, like why would someone do that? And then the way of nature is like self-preservation and like selfishness and which makes sense in like the world that we create, that we live in. But that's like, I love that scene with the dinosaur. Like, I thought that was like, and of course it's very heavy handed. Like, here's this carnivore, finds this helpless dinosaur and it just decides not to kill it and eat it. It just like walks away. Mm-hmm. And I think like my interpretation of that is that like, it's like almost like a miracle that's brought out of this universe that it like, the question, it doesn't matter. Is there a God? Isn't there a God? But like, if you imagine like a world where there isn't a God, that there would be like this natural progression towards grace, towards like selflessness for no reason. Like there isn't a call to goodness from a higher power, that this would just be born out of creatures and like the way the world has developed, and that we would choose to be like selfless for no other reason than just to do it. And I just found that like, I find that like really beautiful, because I'm like in the same place as Slim, is like, I'm just like, I don't know, like that's my current standing. And I'm very happy to be there right now of like saying, I don't know. Mm-hmm. And I think like that idea, when I think of like our reality, if there isn't a God, just that you could have people who act this way for no other reason than just to care for others because we have consciousness and we choose to do that is a beautiful thing.
We just confirmed it. We don't know. We don't know what's out there. We settled the score.
One of the things I liked about the nature grace thing was how, I mean, we said it was represented in Brad and Jessica's character, but I liked that it tells it through the story of young Jack in the path that he tries to take as a kid, where does he lean to be more like his father? Because we see for a while how he pulls away from him and is closer to his mother. And then when he is old enough and he sees how his father treats her, he thinks of her as weak. And then he becomes more like his father after that. It's just a very interesting also way to kind of show it as well.
Mm. Danny, what's your number two?
Number two, I like seeing Brad Pitt in movies like this because it reminds me that he's a good actor. And I was really impressed with his performance in this. I feel like a lot of times I kind of put him in that box with like Clooney and the big people, and I just don't care too much about following a lot of their stuff. But in this, I'm like, man, he played this dad very well. He played this 60s era father figure who's rough and very stern. And I just thought it was quite impressive. I really liked I like Jessica's performance too, but she doesn't say a lot, but her performance is very much in her mannerisms. But I just was kind of drawn to Brad's performance in this, especially with the kids.
Right. I didn't love Brad in this. His gigantic lower jaw jutting out.
Excuse me.
Was that a prosthetic?
Could be a prosthetic jaw. I was curious. One of the interesting things that I read about Brad, well, first of all, Heath Ledger was originally supposed to be.
I read that too.
Oh my God. Like, cannot imagine if that happened. Holy moly.
Pulled out a month before he died.
Yeah. Brad talked about how like filming this movie wasn't a typical movie set where he's like, they have the, you go to a movie set.
Enough.
The Photoshops and live chat.
He's back.
You see a generator outside the set. You got lighting people. You got mics set up everywhere. You got wires. And he said this wasn't any of that. And I think the first time I like subconsciously realized that was the first time you see Brad, it's like the camera is moving into the house and he's sitting at like the kitchen table or something, and you're just looking outside of the house. And I just thought it was such a atypical way to introduce like someone like Brad Pitt in a movie. And you're kind of like right away, you're like, yeah, this is going to be a different movie. But they also talked about like their usage of natural light. Like there's a scene with Jessica by the window shade that is like eye-popping stuff. So many of her shots. Holy cow. But yeah, I was just taken by the way it was filmed, and I think you can see that in all these scenes. So like I'm kind of like, I had such a hard time connecting, not realizing or viewing it from the perspective of the memories. So that's why I had such a problem connecting. I don't have to connect with great characters. They can be shades of gray, but like Brad, like I thought I didn't love his performance as the dad. But if like I think about, well, it's just the way that the kid remembered those moments with his dad, then I'm like, well, okay, if that's the case, then yeah, maybe it was pretty good. But yeah, he's like, I mean, so many scenes, he's like the worst dad ever. Like, I just couldn't deal with Brad, dad, in this. He also didn't look like someone that played piano. Out of my face, Brad. You can't play the piano.
Yeah, those aren't a pianist's fingers.
That was a prosthetic robotic hand on those keys. No way in hell he was playing it. I was also kind of confused, and again, this could be the memory stuff. You know, he does talk about how he regrets his journey into adulthood, that he has a job that it is not inspiring to him. So he gets to see him like try to file these patents in order to kind of like beat the system, I guess. And I don't know, just those scenes are a little bit too jagged in my first experience watching the movie.
Yeah, I think those scenes are really interesting if this is like autobiographical for Malick, because I feel like some of those they feel almost out of place, but maybe they're really important to him, like the story, because like so much of this movie is like the father-son relationship, especially like Sean Penn's character. Like when I feel like when he's reflecting back, he's mostly reflecting back to like his relationship with his dad, because he even has like that conversation with him on the phone at one point.
And even the Sean Penn, like Sean Penn is, you know, third build or whatever, and you start to see him have the same thoughts about his like regrets, you know, like he's an architect. And then you kind of don't see Sean Penn for like 3/4 of the movie again until like the end. Like I was like, where the hell is Sean Penn at? When's he coming back?
Yeah.
That was actually my big complaint, I think, with this, is because I didn't find myself connected to Sean Penn's character, even though he's older Jack. I really wished, I wish there was more to that side of the story than just him wandering in an office building on a cell phone. I mean, we don't really get a real emotional beat from his character until the very end, when he's wandering the desert or something, or finding himself in the desert. But I really was kind of let down on that storytelling aspect of that part of the movie.
Maybe even cast like not Sean Penn.
It could have been anybody else.
Yeah, maybe like not a name of Sean Penn. Maybe just have like, you know, someone else. You know, because you're almost like with Sean Penn, you're like, is this going to be like a big part of the movie? But he's almost not. Like the biggest emotional moment for that character is when he looked at that girl's ass when she walked by him.
Right.
Like that was the apex of that character. That's all we got, at least from what I remember. I will say, Brad Pitt's house in the 50s or the 60s.
Oh my God.
You could have that house in 2023 and it would be the best looking house in the block. Like the furniture, the decor, it was nuts. Nuts.
The whole neighborhood too. That's like your childhood dream.
Mm-hmm.
Those little alleyways behind the houses to run through at your friend's house. My God.
So good. Proto number 3.
Number 3. Yeah, I really love the father-son stuff in this. I just love how like it's complicated, even with the mother too, of just as you grow up and like you reflect on your relationship with your parents, you know, and like once you're an adult and you have time to like think about why you are the way you are. And you're like, well, how much of this is my parents' fault? You know, and you can't help but, you know, wonder about that. And you might like blame them for certain things. And I mean, I have lovely parents. Very thankful for everything they did.
Chew it.
But you like, no parents are perfect, right? So like when you look back, you think about these, you know, you think about these things. So I think just even as this movie is like, it leaves room to reflect, you can't help but like reflect on those things. But I found watching it this time, I think the most interesting thing that for me was that instead of like seeing myself as Jack and reflecting on my own childhood, I see myself more as like Brad and thinking about like, how are my kids
100%
going to look at their childhood? And like, what are they going to look at me and be like, you know, Dad, you know, really effed us up for, you know, this or that. And it's kind of haunting, you know. I think about it all the time and you can't escape it. And you know, like I already know I've screwed up a ton. And it's like, well, how much more am I going to screw up? And like, you know, is it going to reach like some kind of level where I'm going to, you know, ruin my kids in some way? And that's like a haunting thought. And this movie just like brings that to mind a lot.
The fact that you can say that though, and verbalize that means you're not going to ruin your kids.
Stay tuned.
Oh boy. Oh boy. I mean, I don't have anything to add to that. I was pretty spot on.
Yeah.
Danny, third point.
We've talked about so much of it. I think there's always a giant risk in these types of films that have a very serious tone to have kids cast in it. And I think all three boys were very, very well cast and very good performance because they're dealing with, you know, an abusive father, and it's just like their reactions to things, even the small moments where Jack is with RL in the field and they're just kind of crying together, or it's really powerful moments of the two, and they performed it quite well. And I find kid actors could easily ruin a film or just kind of take you out of it. But I feel like these three kids, I mean, one's Ty Sheridan, so he still has a career in
Your
film.
boy.
So I was impressed. I'm impressed with the kid actors in this. I thought the kid that played Jack was really good and very convincing on someone who's torn between his two parents.
Let me see. I'm going into my honorable mentions here. Half my notes is Brad kind of sucks. Why isn't the lifeguard the one giving mouth to mouth? Right? Why is Brad the one giving mouth to mouth during that scene? They're at a public pool, right? Do they have lifeguards back then?
He's that kind of guy, though.
Someone blew a whistle. Yeah, he does feel like that kind of guy.
Worst lifeguard in history. That'll be my third point. Lifeguard. Sorry. Proto, final thoughts and letterboxed rating.
Well, what Danny was saying about the scenes with the kids, one scene that I love was where the dad's Brad is playing the piano and then the son is playing the guitar.
Oh yeah, God.
The middle son, and like they have that connection, and then Jack is just like in the yard, like looking at him, and you can tell like Malick does such a great way of just like expressing how Jack and his dad like have no connection at all. But Jack is like his dad, and then like RL is more like his mom, but he's connected with his dad like through music. And I love that expression in the movie because, you know, that's how it is with kids too, because it's crazy having kids and just seeing how you just see your similarities, like how kids will be like you or they'll be like your spouse. And then in other ways they won't. And it's so bizarre, but like, I feel like that scene just like captured that so well. And I love that at the end where they kind of have like that coming together moment where the dad apologizes to Jack.
You know, Jack, all I ever wanted for you was make you strong and grow up and be your own boss. Maybe I've been tough on you. I'm not proud of that.
I'm as bad as you are. I'm more like you than her.
Well, it's about all I've done in life. Otherwise, I've drawn a zilch.
The dinner table scene. I don't even know what to think of that. That was I like Brad in this. I think he killed it in the role personally. That scene was like really powerful. Final rating. I mean, when I came here, I was saying 4 stars, which might sound strange. You know, I like picked this movie. It's on our top 100. I don't know if it's because there's like this unknown about it, or almost like I can't come to terms with it completely. Like it makes me think so much, and maybe that's like I really like Casey's review because she's like didn't give a rating. It was almost like there's like too much to think about and to like digest about this to really know entirely how you feel about it. But I will say this is like the one other movie. I mean, Danny, you brought up Interstellar earlier. I feel like this
Slim brought that up.
No,
Oh,
that was Danny's quote. He said it
Slim
looked better
Fishman
than
to it.
Interstellar.
This and Interstellar are like peas in a pod to me. Like they make me feel a particular way that like no other movies have. I don't really know what it is that they're doing, but they're the same for me. I even thought like this is my after bang. I mean after Yang. But yeah, I'll stay. I don't know. It sounds weird, but I'm at 4 stars for this.
Okay, 4 stars. The Tree of Life. When will we cover Interstellar? That's the question I get asked constantly in my DMs. When? Interstellar when, Danny?
I know your thoughts on it. And so I don't know if I'm mentally ready for that conversation.
We'll see.
Him saying Murph. Murph.
Danny, final thoughts? Rating.
We didn't really talk about the ending real quick. I did like the ending. I think my biggest complaint is the film didn't kind of it's the Sean Penn's kind of stuff. It didn't feel like it stuck a landing for me with a lot of it. But it was fine. I liked the way it looked on the beach. That looked great. I wrote down from the screenplay what Malick kind of summarized this film as. And he says, "Let us sing a new song, tell a new story, on which, mindful of the ancient tales, takes its inspiration from science. Let us search for the permanent amid the fleeting and mutable, for that which endures through the spectacle of ceaseless change. Let us discover eternal the good." Like Malick. Where's the book of Malick?
That sounds like a psalm. 90% of that sounds like a
Wait, he
psalm.
wrote that?
Yeah, it's in the screenplay. And this film, I think it's going to sit with me for a minute. And if it had stuck a landing and had a better bit with the Sean Penn stuff, I think I'd be at 5 stars. But for now, I'm going to sit at 4.5.
4.5. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Holy moly. Isn't there a song like "Sing a New Song"? Isn't that
Keep
that's
going.
a
You
song,
got it.
right?
Yeah, you got
I'm
it.
not going to sing it.
It was on pitch.
I'll sing it on our Interstellar app.
Okay.
I'm at 3.5 stars. Tree of Life. I had a problem connecting the vibes. Very different vibes than I'm used to. I appreciated the vibes, but on my viewing of this, I actually tried to see if I could weasel in a second viewing. I wasn't able to do so. But for now, 3.5 stars. Tree of Life. Top 100. Terrence. Still love Terrence. The King.
Mm-hmm.
That hat. Love Terrence.
Crown.
Before we get into my pick, if it's even decided yet, Who knows?
Wow.
You still haven't decided.
We have to get into some feedback from our lovely community. You can drop us a line at 70mmpod.com. Let's hear from Marcy. Subject line, dinosaurs. Great pick this week, Proto. The Tree of Life is a beautiful movie, in my opinion. I think everyone should give it a chance once. Excited to hear if you bring up the dinosaurs because they have stuck with me since my initial viewing of the film. I wanted to mention the one scene specifically where one dinosaur puts his foot on the other's head but then walks away. This confused me greatly, but after doing some research, this is considered to be the birth of compassion. The dinosaur is choosing to show compassion to the weaker one by not killing it and walking away. Also, if you turn up the volume at this scene, you can hear the larger dinosaur say, "We are strong as oak," before walking away. Maybe the birth of podcasting, too, if you think about it. Hope you find this as interesting as I did. Love, Marcy. Thank you, Marcy.
Thank you,
Amazing.
Marcy.
Birth of compassion. We have a VM. Close out this segment right now. Oh my, I just looked at the runtime of this VM.
Excuse me.
Liam. All right, here we go. This might be the first time. I can't remember.
Howdy, 70mm pod. It's your boy Liam here, aka the Foot King, aka the Foot Rights Revolutionary.
Oh
This is
my.
my first time coming to you guys from the bowels of Cincinnati suburbia. I really wanted to call in for the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood ep, but alas, time had escaped me. However, when Proto selected The Tree of Life, a film that had been on my watch list for quite some time, I took a gander at that foot on the poster, like Jessica Chastain whispering into my ear. I heard, "It's time." I mean, what can I say about this movie that has yet to be said? It was absolutely beautiful. Not just Brad Pitt's face. It made me feel like a kid again. The way that it captured that nostalgia of youthful innocence so perfectly. This movie is what Lars von Trier thinks he's doing.
Oh, gosh.
And
Oh, my.
going back to
fired.
Brad Pitt for a moment, I mean, my God, why is this not revered as some of the best acting that we've seen from him?
I just
Thank
said
you.
it earlier.
Thank you.
The more that I'm sitting with this movie, the more that I like it. It was completely captivating from start to finish. So thank you, Proto, for a great pick. I look forward to hearing y'all talk about it. And of course, shout out to the Village. I really love being a part of this community.
Oh.
Another shout out to my supporters in the foot rights movement, especially you, Proto.
Uh-huh.
Can't wait to see what next week's pick is. All right. Thanks, y'all. Love you. Bye-bye.
Love you too, Liam. I just have to, just for the folks that aren't in our Discord, Liam is, to some, considered a terrorist of sorts in the theater community. He takes his shoes off in the theater. And not only that does he take the shoe off, he's wearing like, what are they? They're not the show
Never
list.
nude socks.
They're like,
No shows.
there's like less than no show. It's almost like some kind of,
There's not anything less than no
it's
shows.
like a G-string for a foot
Excuse me.
that he wears in these theaters. So that's
I like
Liam.
it.
Just wanted to confirm
Sexy.
that. Pardo, any thoughts?
Thank you for your bravery, Liam. I mean, what a VM. I was long, but a lot of great points in there. Keep doing what you're doing.
Keep fighting the fights.
Keep fighting the good fight. We need like a catchphrase for this, freedom of foot movement. I have to get the interns working on that.
Oh my God. Listen, just to reiterate, I'm for the movement, but not at a public movie theater. You get those reclining chairs. That person's foot is in a line of sight.
And a foot from
Oh
someone's
my
head.
God.
Tom,
Can you imagine seeing a foot? Like another human foot. Can you imagine?
in my line of sight, the human foot would be next to Brad Pitt's elongated jaw, where he's probably stringing
IRL.
tobacco in his lower areas.
Oh.
Tom in chat, I stand with Liam.
There's a movement
Casey,
happening.
I don't ever want to see feet.
I'm forced to wear socks in this house.
Oh my God. Guantanamo Bay of feet over there. All right. So it's time for me to give a pick. it's time for me to talk about my pick.
You need to go through this. We need to work through this together.
For those that aren't in the Discord, Danny does a pre-show. It's like morning zoo radio around here. Danny does 30 minutes live, uncut. Yeah. And I heard
traffic, we do weather
on the nines.
Mm-hmm.
But you said something very prescient.
Oh.
You said that there's 100 movies on our list, and it is essentially a no theme month for me. Right. There's too many movies to choose from. I'm paralyzed. I was paralyzed. I traded my pick last week to Proto because I had it down to 3 choices. An extra week just added 3 more choices to my list. It backfired.
We're going backwards.
I knew this would happen.
So I have 5 great choices that I don't know if I want to say. I don't know we don't know what Mackenzie's picking. Mackenzie is going to be our guest in 2 weeks. But they were great options. You know, I had reasons for not choosing them. You know how I think about choosing a movie. Mm-hmm. You know, I got to think back, like, what have we covered the last couple of months?
Yeah.
What have we not covered?
What's streaming?
Do we look to male? We only doing dude movies? We only doing white movies? So I try to like put all that. I just need to pick a friggin' movie, you know?
Do you want us to help?
No, I don't need your help.
Oh.
But thank you. But I also think about like, what do I want to watch? What do I think would make like a really fun chat between us?
Interstellar.
And what would make maybe the greatest art in show history?
What? No pressure.
No pressure. It's not streaming also.
Okay.
But I feel like if you don't own it, it's time finally, probably.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe to rent it. So we are going to be doing, finally, after all these years, Uma Thurman in Kill Bill Volume 1.
Oh,
Do
baby.
it.
This is a difficult decision, but I had to think about me. You know, I had to think about me. Sometimes you got to put yourself first. Right. It may seem counterintuitive, but sometimes you got to do it.
Right.
Okay.
I'm very excited.
What do you think, Proto?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, the time is now.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we did Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We all remember how that went, but I think we'll be better aligned with this.
The art alone, Proto.
Don't put this on me,
Danny. Whatever you do, it's going to be amazing.
Thank you. I know.
So, like I said, this is going to be a purchase, or I don't even think you can rent it. To be honest, I need you to head to the library, head to your local library. Casey, I saw your 5-bang rating that you dropped on this movie in October, by the way, doing my research.
Wow.
And previously I thought, like, I don't want to do this until 4K is out, but I'm tired of waiting.
There's no 4K
I'm tired of waiting.
Wow.
I'm tired. I also thought about us doing the combined, because there's like a cut that Quentin has made of both movies as one giant film. It's called The Whole Bloody Affair, but it's never been released. So I put the kibosh on that.
What if we say we watched it?
There's a bunch of changes actually that he made to it.
Oh,
to combine them into one film. Yeah.
5 hours long.
We've already started the next episode.
All right. So Kill Bill's next. Proto, Tree of Life is in the past, but always with us. Any closing thoughts this week?
Closing thoughts. I did want to give a recommendation for a book. There's a book by the author Ray Bradbury. He's known for mostly, I think, like science fiction stuff, but he wrote a book called Dandelion Wine. It reminded me, I read the book after having seen The Tree of Life, and it reminded me of The Tree of Life in a lot of ways. It's a really cool book. It's like magical realism, but it's like the same idea of like young kids in a town. But it was just one of my favorite books that I've read. I think it's really cool. And if you like Tree of Life, it will probably resonate with you in the same way. But I was also, when I think of this movie, I also just think of my own childhood. And I had this one summer where there was like just a gang of kids in my neighborhood. And like, I didn't go to public school, and none of my siblings did either. So we didn't really have like friends in the neighborhood. But for whatever the reason, this one summer, we like all were hanging out. And and we would like play every day, or at least it like felt every day. And I remember like we went to a neighbor's. We played hockey. We all had like rollerblades. We went to their driveway to play in the one neighbor's driveway who had like the smoothest driveway. It was like our next door neighbor. And I remember like one other time in the summer, like a kid, we were looking for worms in our backyard and under like these logs. We had just like this pile of like huge logs. And this kid, I don't even know, I don't remember his name. He just like showed up that one day and he like picked up a log and then he like just dropped it out of his hands and it landed on my big toe.
Oh my gosh.
And like it was like almost like a comedy moment where like he dropped it, looked away, and it landed on my toe, and I'm like, like keeled over. I lost the toe, the nail the next month.
Oh God! I thought you lost a toe.
It was brutal. And I remember we had a neighbor who he was a Little Debbie's delivery truck driver. You know Little Debbie's?
Yeah,
So
we have
he
this
had-
down here.
Do you know what I'm talking about there? So he had a truck in his driveway. So we were always like fascinated by this. And like one day we all mustered up the courage to send one of us up there to ask for some Little Debbie's. And he came back with like a stack of boxes for us.
Wow.
It was an amazing moment. And then our neighbor across the street, they had 4 kids. It was Danny, Tommy, David, and Katie.
Oh, gosh.
And when after, the summer, it's like 8:30 or whatever. And it's like we played all day. Their mom would whistle. And you could hear the whistle like half mile away. But that was like the sign that like the day was over and like the fun was done. And like we'd all just go home at that point. But like when I think of like those memories, I kind of like think of them in like the way like the Tree of Life plays out, because like there aren't any, like I don't remember what anyone said. There's no words, there's no sound, of course. It was just like moving pictures and like a little bit of like nostalgia for like those memories that I have of that time.
The Tree of Proto's life. Coming to theaters 10 years from now. All right. We will see everybody next week for Kill Bill Volume 1. "70mm" is a tape deck production featuring original artwork provided by Danny Haas. Spiritual guidance and V'ger, the robot who loves movies, provided by Pertalexis. Producer at large, Dale_A. Transcripts provided by Sophie Shin and music composed by Cinematrix. Prints and other merch are available on 70mmpod.com. This episode was mixed, edited, and produced by me, Slim. Support our Patreon for access to our VHS Village Discord to talk movies with new friends, access to our exclusive episodes in the 70mm vault, discounts on merch, uncut episodes, and a physical membership card mailed to you. To check out other Tape Deck podcasts, find the link in the episode notes. And if you'd like to support our friends at Letterboxd and upgrade to Pro or Patron status, you can do so with a 20% off discount using the links on 70mmpod.com. Goodbye.
This is a Tape Deck podcast.